Hello, amazing students. Welcome to English with Sophie. I analyzed 500 native English speakers and found 20 words that over 80% of people get wrong. Here's the shocking part. Many of these mistakes aren't really mistakes at all. They're clues to where you're from, how old you are, and even how your brain works. Let's test your pronunciation right now. Say this word out loud right now. Wednesday. Did you say Wednesday or Wednesday? Here's the truth. Almost nobody pronounces that middle D, not your teacher, not the news anchor, not even the dictionary police. The original Old English word was Wadnesdig, named after the Norse god Woden. Over centuries, English speakers dropped the D because it was awkward. Dictionaries now list both versions as acceptable. You've been saying it wrong since kindergarten, but so has everyone else. The real question is, why does the spelling still pretend that matters? If you think Wednesday is confusing, wait until you hear about the word hiding on your breakfast table. Look at this word, almond. Do you say almond with a clear L, or ahmond swallowing the letter completely? Both are correct, but they tell different stories. The L version comes from Old French almond. British speakers kept it. American English softened it into ahmond. Some linguists say the L was never meant to be silent. Others argue efficiency won. Your choice reveals whether you lean British or American in your speech habits. Neither is wrong. Both are history. But here's what matters. If pronunciation is just about accent, why do entire countries argue over the next word? Let's test that theory with something even more divisive. Tomato or tomato? You've heard the joke. You've probably made it yourself. But this divide isn't just funny, it's historical. British English kept the Spanish-influenced tomato after the fruit arrived from South America. American English simplified it to tomato in the 1800s when dictionaries tried to standardize spelling and sound. Both nations are confident they're right. Linguists stay neutral. So who wins? Nobody. Language doesn't have referees. But what if I told you there's a word that both Americans and British speakers are getting wrong? And it's the word for how to say words correctly. That's next. Word is pronunciation. Say it slowly. Did you just say pronunciation? You're not alone. Millions of educated speakers make this exact mistake. Why? Because of the verb pronounce. Our brains assume the noun follows the same pattern, but it doesn't. The correct form is pronunciation with a soft U. Linguists call this hypercorrection, when trying to be correct makes you wrong. Even grammar experts slip up. The paradox is delicious, mispronouncing the word for correct pronunciation. Logic misleads the tongue. And it's about to get even more personal because the next word can expose you in a job interview. The word is resume. But which one? Resume, resume, all three exist. The first means your job history document borrowed from French. The second means to continue. The third is the fancy French original. Stress changes meaning. Context changes pronunciation. Accent reveals class or education level. In American job interviews, resume signals professionalism. In British contexts, it might sound pretentious. One word, three identities. Your choice telegraphs who you are before you finish your sentence. Now that we've touched careers, let's look at a word that could change how you sound in a meeting. This one divides entire industries. Data? Is it data or data? Both are technically correct, but here's the secret: one dominates. In tech companies, scientific labs, and corporate boardrooms, data has become the insider term. Data feels old-fashioned, almost academic. Why? American influence, the rise of Silicon Valley, the globalization of tech language. Pronunciation became tribal. If you say data in a startup pitch, you might sound out of touch. If you say data in a British university, you might sound too casual. The stakes are higher than grammar. This is cultural currency. And if corporate culture can shift a word, wait until you hear how science itself mispronounces one of its most important terms. Nuclear. Easy, right? Except millions say nuclear. Even presidents, even scientists. Why does this happen? Linguists call it metathesis when sounds swap places because the mouth finds it easier. The clee sound in nuclear is rare in English. Our tongues prefer coolar, like in spectacular or muscular. The brain autocorrects to familiar patterns. Yes, dictionaries mark nuclear as incorrect, but language evolution often forgives the error. Shakespeare invented words. Teenagers create slang. Maybe nuclear is just the next step. If logic and efficiency shape speech, then what about emotions? The next word changes its sound based on how you feel. Say interesting when you're bored. Now say it when you're excited. Did the syllables shrink? Most people say interesting, dropping the middle sound. Linguists call this syllable reduction. When you're engaged, your brain prioritizes meaning over precision. When you're faking interest, you overpronounce. Interesting. Emotions compress language. Efficiency wins again. Your tongue is lazy, but in a smart way. The correct four-syllable version is neurologically expensive. The three-syllable shortcut is natural evolution. If emotions can bend pronunciation, imagine what social status does. The next word has been rewritten by class, education, and geography. Let's see if you recognize it. Either and neither. Do you say either or either? In the early 1900s, British English preferred either. It sounded educated, refined, upper class. American English embraced either as a way to democratize language. Today, both coexist, but they still signal something. Either can sound formal or old-fashioned. Either feels casual, modern, American. Pronunciation became social currency. You telegraph your background in 2 syllables. Accent isn't just geography, it's identity. And speaking of identity, the next word will instantly reveal where you grew up. Ready. Caramel. Do you say caramel or caramel? 2 syllables or 3? If you're from the East Coast of America, you likely say 3, Midwest, 2, Southern states, maybe caramel. British speakers often use 3 syllables but soften the middle vowel. This word is a linguistic map. Your pronunciation pinpoints your region without a single other clue. It's not wrong. It's origin. Accent is autobiography. So if regional speech shapes how we talk, what happens when spelling itself lies to us? The next word is one of the biggest betrayals in the English language. Colonel. Look at it, now say it. Colonel. Where did the R come from? Why is the L silent? This word is a Frankenstein. It came from Italian colonnello, meaning a column of soldiers. French borrowed it as coronel, which English speakers pronounced with an R, but Spanish and Italian influences kept the spelling colonel. We ended up with a visual phonetic disaster, a word that looks nothing like it sounds. You can't logic your way through it. You just have to memorize the betrayal. But spelling isn't the only liar. Sometimes marketing rewrites pronunciation. Let me show you. Nike. Do you say NYK or NYK? The company had to release a public statement. The correct pronunciation is NYK, named after the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. But millions of people say NYK, influenced by English spelling patterns like bike or hike. The brand tried to correct it with ads. It's Nike, not Nike. Still, the mispronunciation persists. Why? Because English speakers trust spelling over history. Brands bend language. Culture erases origins. Now imagine what happens when entire nations rewrite a word. That's next. Croissant. Do you say it like the French croissant? Or do you anglicize it croissant? Here's the dilemma. If you fake the French pronunciation in an English-speaking bakery, you might sound pretentious. If you say it fully English in Paris, you might sound ignorant. Globalization blurs authenticity. The correct form depends on your audience, your location, your intent. Language is performance. You code switch to fit in. But let's go even deeper. Some words don't just change by place. They change over time. Let's meet a word that time itself resurrected. Often. Do you say often or often? For centuries, the T was silent. Shakespeare never pronounced it. Neither did Dickens. Then in the 1800s, spelling reformers decided silent letters were confusing. They started teaching the T again. Pronunciation was resurrected by educators who valued spelling over tradition. Today, both versions coexist. Often is considered classic. Often is now common. Language doesn't just evolve forward, it loops back. Sounds return from the dead. If time can revive pronunciation, can it also erase a word's entire past? Let's find out. February. Do you say February or February? That sneaky R in the middle trips everyone up. The word comes from Latin februarius, named after a purification ritual. The R was always there, but English speakers found it clunky, so they softened or skipped it. Both pronunciations have historical roots. One is lazier, one is more correct. But correction is subjective. Ancient Romans would recognize neither version. If rituals can shape pronunciation, who decides what's correct today? Let's investigate the authority behind the rules. Who makes the rules? Teachers. Dictionaries? The government? Here's the truth, nobody does. Lexicographers, the people who write dictionaries, don't create rules. They observe, they follow usage. Merriam-Webster, Oxford, Cambridge, they all document how people actually speak, not how they should speak. If enough people say a word a certain way, it becomes acceptable. Language is democratic. The crowd decides. Authority is an illusion. So if the majority defines correctness, are you ever really wrong? That's a dangerous question, and it leads us to something even bigger. Watch videos of people from India, Nigeria, Jamaica, Scotland, and Australia saying the same English word. Every version sounds different. Every version is valid. Pronunciation reflects identity, not intelligence. Accent is culture. Your voice carries history, migration, colonization, resistance, and pride. Correct English is a myth used to enforce power. The Queen's English isn't more accurate, it's just more privileged. Standardization is political. So if every accent is legitimate, does that mean every mistake is evolution? What if all the errors we've discussed aren't errors at all? Let's uncover the hidden rule. Here's the pattern. Every so-called mistake stems from rhythm, stress, and efficiency. Humans don't mispronounce out of ignorance, they adapt. Language wants to be easier to say. Your tongue follows the path of least resistance. Linguists call it phonological economy. Dropping syllables, swapping sounds, simplifying clusters, these aren't failures. They're improvements. English rewards efficiency. Every lazy pronunciation is a smart biological shortcut. So if every error is natural evolution, what is the real mistake? Spoiler, it's not you. The real mistake is believing in correct pronunciation as a fixed truth. Every accent, every dialect, every variation is a reflection of cultural power, not linguistic correctness. British English isn't superior, it's just older in certain contexts. American English isn't lazy, it's innovative. Indian English isn't broken, it's hybrid. Pronunciation is power. Whoever controls the narrative controls whose voice sounds smart. So maybe the real question isn't whether you're wrong. It's who gets to say you are. That's the twist, and it changes everything. Language belongs to its speakers, not to textbooks, not to tests, not to tradition. You don't just learn English, you shape it. Every time you speak, you vote on what stays and what changes. Your voice matters, your accent is valid. Your mistakes are evolution in progress. So here's my final question. Which of these words surprised you most? Which one will you keep saying your way, and which will you defend? Drop your answer below. Let's celebrate the chaos, because English isn't a rule book. It's a living, breathing conversation, and you're part of it.